Tonight I want to welcome 4 individuals on stage or in this space. We decided we've got nice venues here, but we wanted to do this in a church so that we can all face our stuff. The church is having a conversation in a church building. That's why we're sitting here. So we'll open with prayer, but we've invited 4 individuals into this space. And you'll get to know more about them and their alliances and who they're connected with. But I just want to welcome 4 people. Wouter Wessels. You want to guess which one that is? Wouter Wessels, you're very welcome. Vuyiswa Ramagopa. Vuyiswa. I say Vuyiswa. Vuyiswa. Thank you. Vuyiswa. Ne? How's that? Okay, thank you. Then Lerato Ngobeni. And Songezo Zibi. More than them, because it's their job to be here, I want to welcome each one of you. And I almost get emotional just meeting 4 people outside. And I can't mention any names. But there's professors here, there's bosses of newspapers, there's people wearing koptuko on their heads while they're a man. There's the funniest people here, but they're all amazing. There's one guy who came from the rural area, living behind the engine garage, came with his whole family. Where's that family? But he was in the video. There's moms, there's dads, there's people who left their kids. So I really want to look at you, and I've asked the videographer at some stage to move around and show us from behind and film that for a few minutes, because that's the magic of the evening. It's about you, it's not about us. So each one of you, very, very welcome. There's a lot of clergy here. Clergy is pastor, dominee, priest. All of them are here. And they're going to go home with something, not the information about this evening, but about the emotional experience. So we're looking forward to connect and have a quality interaction with each other. I've got 2 rules only. The one is, no one tonight, I'm looking at you 4, is allowed to complain about the current government. This crowd doesn't need convincing that they're bad. So you'll waste your time complaining about the government or the ANC. So you're not allowed to. And we're not allowed to insult anyone in the room or insult someone outside of this room. If you break one of the 2 rules, we had an artwork commissioned for this evening, and the artwork is called The Commander, the Showerhead, and the Dustbin. There's this one. So if you catch someone complaining about the government or the ANC or insulting someone, just put up your hand and point, and that person will receive the trophy. Whoa, you see? They'll receive until someone else does something wrong. So this is like a mumish or a tokolosi, whatever you want to call it. You don't want this. And you can only get this by complaining about the ANC or the government or insulting someone. So I'll just put it safely here. Also doesn't work. That was a test. That was a test. And then I've got a little time device. When you speak and you're nearly done, and you don't decide if you're done, I'll decide if you're done. I'm going to just do this and show you a black sign. And if you're really done, I'm going to put red. And if I lift up the red, you press mute. And we're just going to carry on. Is that fine? So when you see this little racket land, if you see the red one, it's getting close to rudeness. Okay, so we're with each other on the rackets. Then I'm a pastor, so I can smell a sermon coming from a mile away. I'm going to stop you, even if it's your best sermon. Pastors and politicians do the same thing. No matter what question you ask them, they convert it to their favorite sermon. They prepare 10 answers, and whatever I ask them, they're going to pull out that 10. So I'm going to say, what's your favorite pet? Do you have a pet? No, I don't have a dog, but you know, my brother is loyal like a dog, and in primary school, and then off you go. It's not the question. So I'm going to be your very loving brother Skulk, keeping it real. Thank you. There's 3 movements of the evening. The first one is personal, for us to just realize these are not just faces or politicians. I'm going to ask personal questions fast. Some will be 10 second, just to know each other as people. So it's personal. Then we're talking about elections a little bit, upskilling ourselves, hopefully. And then after election talk, then we want to talk about citizenship. What does it mean to be a South African? So if you want very deep philosophical things, it's coming. Don't change the topic from your favorite animal to citizenship. That part, we'll get there. And then I asked many people for questions and comments, and I got amazing stuff. But it's not for a dialogue or a conversation. It's more like for a roast. So if we get boring, the crowd can say and demand, roast. Then I'm going to break the tension by asking some of those funny questions. They're very funny, as long as you don't take them personal. And you can say you don't answer or you can answer, but some of them, Wouter, very funny. So there's a whole page just for roast questions. I'm holding back on them, but if things get too boring and churchy, we're going to roast. Okay. Right, so I'm going to jump in now just to see how obedient these politicians are. And we're going to play a quick game where each person is just going to have 10 seconds to give an answer. So we want to get to know you. So you can answer in 1 second, or you can use your 10 seconds to add a sentence. Not that type of sentence, but a sentence. So we'll just go like this for this round. Starting with Wouter. Do you have a pet, and are you a dog or a cat person?
I do. I have 2 Dashoons, but they are extremely naughty, and my neighbors also do know that I do have 2 Dashoons.
That Dashoons is like a vorshond, ne?
That's correct.
For the English, it's a hot dog. Vorshond, okay. Thank you.
I am allergic to dogs, but they all love me. And I'm actually a cat person.
Okay.
The only pet I've ever had is a pet goat. And I had one when I was 10 years old.
Thank you. You lost me at goat. Okay. Ratum?
I never knew that I could love another dog. I've had dogs all my life. Now I've got a Rottweiler and a Boerboel. And they are 2 puppies. They are 8 months old, both of them. And they are naughty as children. And I only have 1 child who is 18. I never thought I'd have another. So I've got 2 now. Thank you.
I just want to jump in and say, already your stereotypes are gone. Vryheidsfront, klein hondjie. Action, big dogs.
I don't have a pet, but my daughter thinks I'm her pet.
Spot the politician. It's about pet. He starts talking about his daughter and So help me. All right. Where do you like to go on holiday? 3-second answer. And this time we're going to start that side and come on. Where do you go to chill for holiday if you want to relax and not work?
Home, Eastern Cape.
Home, Eastern Cape. Thank you.
Port Shepstone, KZN.
Port Shepstone, KZN.
Anywhere coastal.
Anywhere coastal.
What is a holiday?
What animal are you scared of?
Snakes, spiders.
Did I ask animal or animals? You give them anything. What animal are you most scared of?
Probably a rat. Is that an animal? Yeah,
Yes,
a rat.
thank you.
I'm so sad to say, but a lizard.
A lizard. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Snake.
Snake. Thank you. Favorite food? Let's go again like this.
Meat.
Meat.
I'm trying to get out of it, but rice, any kind of iteration of rice. It's my pet peeve, but it's my favorite.
Thank you.
Probably chicken.
Chicken.
I'm a stereotype, yeah.
Thank you.
Definitely red meat as well.
Red meat. Thank you. Last one in this round. A secret talent that you have. Secret talent, something you're good at that we won't expect.
It's a very difficult question that you won't expect.
I like this. It's like the bass.
Maybe that is it.
No, let's skip and come around when you realize what are you good at that we wouldn't guess.
I've got a really good mom stare. I can stop a naughty toddler with one look.
Thank you. That's very good.
I have the same. Mine is Framinix. Is my stay, Framinix. And I give you my Framinix look. But I can't do it now because I
Because
want you
you're
to Framim plenty.
I just want to say they're all saying it's a mom's stare, but us men, we know it's a husband's stare.
No, I don't have a husband stare.
Thank you.
Stand-up comedy.
Stand-up comedy. Fantastic. Thank you. We did that round, not for you to get to know them, just for them to practice to be quick. All right? And I think it worked, so let's give them a hand. They were fantastic. I'm now going to give a minute, actually, and I'll first ask the question. In this round, you get 2 questions and you can pick one. So the first pair of which you can pick which one to answer is either who is your favorite South African struggle hero, and you have a minute to explain why, or what are you really scared of, but not like spiders and snakes and whatever, like as in to get old, to lose my teeth, to be alone, my husband cheating on me, like deep stuff. So either favorite struggle hero in South Africa or something that's very vulnerable and we ask these questions to see if you're going to lie to us or not. If it's not like, oh, I'm scared that you'll go and vote for ANC, don't swing it. A personal fear or struggle hero. So I'm going to allow the 4 of them now to choose who goes first. If you're ready, you start, or you can indicate. Thank you. Let's go this way. It's set then.
The thing I'm afraid of is losing hope in the future, and that things can ever be okay. That scares me. The hope keeps me alive, and waking up in the morning.
Is there a real chance that you can lose hope?
Some people have. I've met people that have.
I'm not asking is there a real chance that other people can lose hope?
Yeah.
Is there a chance that you can lose hope?
Sometimes it feels that way, but it's there. The hope is there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good politician, because he doesn't want to say I can lose hope, because then they'll be in the newspaper, Songenzo Libby lost hope. And so very smart. I like it. I was tempted, but I think it is. It's a valid one.
It's a genuine answer. It
Yeah.
is.
Thank you, Lerato.
I think the record needs to go. It's enough. My struggle hero is my mother, first and foremost. My mother was a teacher at Morris Isaacson High School. I remember growing up, I used to go to Morris Isaacson with her, and I've seen all the brutality that was there. I experienced what being an activist in a community and a teacher at that time was. And so for me, you know, the person who keeps me honest, even though she passed away when I was 14 years old, is my mother. She keeps me honest, she keeps me having the hope. I've also seen how you can lose hope in our country and how you can see the face of hope. I definitely, being on the ground, have seen people who have lost hope. It is the most painful thing. And what has brought me into the space is to realize that we have allowed in our country people who are the lowest common denominators to decide our fate. And so, you know, I got into the space because I wanted to be the change I wanted to see in the world, and I could no longer be an armchair critic. And so my mother is the reason why I wake up every morning and I do the work that I do. The second person, I don't know how much time I have, is Winnie Mandela.
You've got a lot of, sorry.
Is Winnie Mandela. Winnie Mandela.
She's sneaking in Winnie Mandela.
And I say this not because of the things you've heard, but because if it wasn't for Winnie Mandela, I would not have been an educated politician. I would not have been a caring politician. And she was one of the people who made sure that I could go to school and I could become what my mother dreamt of, because I lost my mom when I was 14. So you can imagine, I always say to people, if you are a child-headed household, I got you. If you didn't have your mom in your teens, I got you, because I've been there. And so that's my struggle hero response. Thanks.
Thank you so much. I'm going to keep it real with you. I saw all of you very happy when she said her mom. And then when she said the second person, you know, start thinking, ne? But I think this is where the evening gets real, is you hear something you didn't expect. Hold it preciously. It's from a special person, although it goes against what you might think. So thank you for those two. Which question are you going to answer, Weezo?
I will answer the biggest fear question.
Okay.
My biggest fear is losing somebody close to me, in particular, something happening to one of my children. I'm very scared, actually. I have a 2-year-old and an 11-year-old and a 12-year-old. And I think that, like how Superman had his kryptonite, I think our children are our weak spots. I can probably take anything, but I think if anything were to happen to one of my children, it would be very difficult to recover from that. And certainly way up there in my biggest fears is something happening to my husband. I think that I was very blessed to be given a partner that I can really make a beautiful life with. And I'm very fearful of the prospect of losing my partner one day and what that would mean for me. So, yeah, I have been blessed not to lose people very close to me. I have both my parents alive, and I've never actually had to experience grieving somebody very close to me. So I fear when that day comes, and I know it will come, but I've been protected from that thus far.
Thank you.
I won't attempt answering a question about a favorite struggle hero, because I do believe that there's so many influential people in our history that you can learn from and that you can learn something from and admire something and really take that forth and get hope from that. So my biggest fear, if I can answer that question, is to wake up one morning and having lost my purpose, realizing that I'm not making a difference anymore, realizing that what I'm doing doesn't really have a purpose anymore. And I think that might be the worst day. But I do that reality check each morning and ask myself, am I still making a difference? Am I in this job, in this calling for the right reason? And do I really make a difference? And if the answer is ever no, then I'll leave.
Thank you. Context helps. So Wouter has been in Parliament, a member of Parliament for more than 10 years. Am I right? Yeah, so those questions are very pertinent. Thank you. The next pair is either you can say, who do you think is your greatest South African ever? But not the same answer as the previous one. Or the last time you cried. And this time I'm just going to give 30 seconds. So I'm bringing it in a little bit. So either the greatest South African ever, 30 seconds, or last time you cried. Are you ready to speak more?
Last time I cried, and I'm really being honest, is we compiled a Human Rights Commission, or a complaint for the Human Rights Commission on the state of public care hospitals. And I really teared up to read the stories, the complaints we received from normal South Africans out there, and the plight that there is with regards to something so basic as access to decent quality healthcare. So that really did make me cry.
Thank you. Can we go around that way? Yes.
It was about a week and a half ago in KwaMashu, in eThekwini, and we visited this home. It's a child-headed home, or at least the parents have passed on. The eldest child is about 24, but it wasn't the kids. The story was horrendous, but there was a young man. I couldn't quite understand him, what he was trying to say, and then they explained that he's got epilepsy. And there was some issue with his grant. He couldn't find some documents. Anyway, to shorten the story, it turned out he grew up in an orphanage. So we thought we could help find the orphanage. But they said the orphanage had closed, so there is no way for him to find the documents. So I then asked about family, and they said, no, he can't contact his family. And we wanted to help with that too. And I asked him why he doesn't know his family. And he said he was left in a rubbish dump in a plastic bag. I just didn't know what to say. It broke me in that moment, because you also realize how fortunate you are to have had parents, and you can find your documents.
Thank you.
The greatest South African ever for me are South Africans. I think that South Africans in and of ourselves have abdicated, our sense of being a South African, because we've left it to other people, including politicians, to determine that. I remember a story in Mpumalanga where a family was in an accident and the car got far-flung, and there was a child who must not have been more than a few months old who got caught up in a thorn tree. And I don't know if all of you have seen the video of South Africans actually going in there because they heard the cry of this child, and they rescued this child from the thorn tree. And I think it's a he, or I don't know whether it's a he or a she, but that baby survived. And that is a story of great South Africans, irrespective of our color, our creed, who we were, but we heard the cry of the child and we responded. And for me, more than singling one great South African out, I think South Africans, all of us, are great South Africans because we all love our country, we all are fighting for it in our little ways, and we all are doing the work that we need to do in our little ways to make sure that our country is what we aspired for it to be.
Thank you.
So, at the risk of being cliche, but I really do think the greatest South African ever is Nelson Mandela. I just did a quick Google search. There's no one better. And, and it's not just because of his fame, but really what he represented for us and continues to represent for us, which is our best selves as South Africans, what we can be, who we can be. Our ability to forgive, our ability to transcend, our own pain and our own trauma. I mean, this is someone who was literally incarcerated for 27 years and came out and said, I'm still willing to work on it. I mean, I can't forgive my husband when he leaves dishes in the sink, you know. And these, I think for me, we really desperately need to get back there to seeing ourselves in our highest and best versions and not our lowest selves, which is where I think we kind of are right now. So I think Madib still gets the top spot for me.
Thank you. My hope is that all of you will see 4 individuals tonight here that care. And we've just started. But I think if you're listening and you're observing, you're seeing something maybe you didn't expect. And I hope also that you'll get a chance as you speak to see that there's a bunch of people who care deeply. And when you go out and do your thing in the next few months, we know politicians are nicer before the election than after, but as you go out there doing your thing, that you'll remember there's people who cares deeply. Things got deep and long, so I'm just going to bring us back to the vibe again and just test your brevity. 5-second answers. And now I want to see if you're brave and if we've established trust already. This part, we don't have to keep in the video. Name an honest politician that's not in your party. 1, just an individual. An honest politician that's not in your party, and we start with Songezo.
I don't know. I can't vouch for anybody.
I'm seriously not here to campaign for other parties, but Jesus, 5 seconds.
Okay, now that's a good answer.
I think Jesus is an honest politician. But in all honesty, credit must be given where it's due. I think one of the best people we have in our country just belongs to the wrong party is Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi.
Repeat, please.
Dr. Aaron Motsoaledi. I think he's one of...
Aaron Motsoaledi.
Aaron Motsoaledi, who is the Minister of Home Affairs at the moment. I think he's a hardworking man. He belongs to the wrong party. And in every single portfolio he's ever held, whether it's Home Affairs, Health, he has been about the business and he's worked really, really hard to do the work that he needs to do. It's just unfortunate that he belongs to the party that he does.
Thank you for being that brave and gracious to mention a person from another party.
I think there are quite a few. I mean, I think Chris Papas is someone I enjoy.
Chris Papas.
Yeah.
Thank you. It's enough. I'm just asking for 1 in 5 seconds. 1 in 5 seconds. So that's enough?
It's quite a number of, because I think it's quite a generalization to say that politicians are dishonest. But a lot of my colleagues are honest, and especially
someone in another party.
Someone like Steve Swart from the ACDP is an honest politician, and we work very well together.
Thank you, Steve Swart. Thank you. I think we have to be real, because those people are sitting there thinking there's not one name. And it's good to hear names, because it gives us hope. And maybe after tonight, see, I'm tricking them, they don't even know it. After tonight, maybe you could mention someone on this stage. Who knows? Okay, now the next question is even harder, and I'm going to be stricter. 2 seconds. If someone is really not okay in their head, and they're going to vote, and they just have to choose only 2 choices, they're going to make a cross now, MK or EFF. Which one would you prefer?
So we have to choose.
You have to say, let's take that young kid. He's obviously confused. He's standing there. There's just 2 options for him, MK or EFF. Which one should he vote? Or if you maybe feel comfortable, you can say which one not. You can say skip if you don't want to answer.
So what is the question?
Who must you not vote for between EFF and MK? That's your only choice. No, anyone. But that's an automatic assumption. No, I'm joking. Okay, let's go.
Let me skip.
Skip.
Who would you vote for or not?
MK or EFF? Where must he put his cross?
MK.
Hard. Thank you.
It's the better evil,
Thank
I think.
you. Sissy, do you want to answer?
Yeah, if I'm really not well in the head, MK.
Better than.
No, it's not better than. If I'm not okay, if I'm not okay in the head,
Okay,
it would
thank
be
you.
MK.
Thank you for honesty. Songezo, are you enjoying the
Oh,
question?
no, no.
It's his last choice in his
My
life.
two least favorite. I'll skip.
You're
I
going to
can't.
skip.
I really can't.
No.
We're still growing. Let's make it easier.
Can I tell you why?
Yes.
Because Jacob Zuma is 82 years old. So
Oh, it will
he's
be
going
for a
to be a
short
problem
time.
for a shorter amount of time.
Oh,
We're stuck with Julius for the next
thank
40
you.
years.
Thank you.
That's not true.
Vote wisely.
That's not true.
Okay, wait.
That's
Everyone,
not true.
let's make it easier. Who was the smartest? George Bush Jr. or Donald Trump? Quickly. Who was the smartest? George?
George.
Definitely, George.
Bush.
Okay, that one's nice. Well, you see, there's so much we have in common. Who makes you laugh more? Trevor Noah or Juju?
Trevor.
Definitely Juju.
Trevor.
Trevor.
Okay, thank you. Juju is Malema, ne? Almal weet dit? Okay, lekker. Okay, there's a couple
Trevor's
of
an actual comedian,
exactly.
and Juju's just an idiot.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Oh.
Yeah.
I won't put it on your head. I'll just put it.
An idiot is a scientific term.
Thank you. Help me to listen. We can pass it on as soon as someone is wrong.
Own it proudly.
Thank you.
Oh, and then she broke it.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. I think we've done our icebreaker. I think we know it's starting to know each other a little bit. So now we're digging into some facts and we're going more into professional mode about the elections. There's a couple of questions that obviously we would need information on. There's some which we'd like opinion on. So the first question, and here I'm going to jump around. I'm not going to ask everyone any time. The first thing is there's a lot of polls happening, and this one says the ANC is at this and the DA is at that. And then I also read the newspaper, and especially Action SA, I read like they're going to take on some of these pollsters that looks like pranksters, because depending on who pays for the poll, that party is like looking very growing, and it creates an illusion of growth. So my first question is, which poll is recent that we can trust? That's not, I wanted to be naughty and say not from the Oppenheimers, but I won't.
This pastor is naughty.
Ooh. No, so my question simply, and I'm going to ask Lerato and Wouter, which poll is recent and reliable that we can actually think, oh, okay, we can take it as an indicator, not accurate, but just fair and independent?
Well, if we thought any of them were anything to go by, we wouldn't have been taking them for task. But if I were to if I were to really answer, because I think we're in a church, I have to be honest, and not sort of politic, which is what we were asked, is to say, I think the recent poll I've looked at is Mark Data. I think Mark Data offers us a sobering reality into what actually could happen. Mark Data was published by ANCA, I think, a couple of weeks ago. And so, we all drink our own Kool-Aid as political parties. We all think that we're all going to be above 15%. When we all sit together, we say, South Africans are so thirsty for change. But I think as a sobering, sort of eye-opener and a wake-up call, I would say Mark Data.
Mark Data.
Mark Data, yeah. All the other ones I've seen are either sponsored and they do prop up. Now, here's the last thing I want to say that is important about polls, is similar to what rallies are. So, the perception of momentum, because politics is about momentum. So people see things like polls, they see rallies, they see the numbers at rallies, they also see posters and they think, oh my God. For example, lastly, If I was a foreign national visiting South Africa and I assumed that the EFF was the ruling party, I would not blame that foreigner, just given, you know, the flat, like, you've all seen the posters of the EFF all over Gauteng. I would say that EFF is the ruling party, so that's why we are questioning the idea of polls.
Thank you. Do you still remember which one she said? Mark data. It's a nice one because in Afrikaans, mark data. Lekker. Do you have a different answer or another poll that you would think gives a fair indication?
Let me firstly say that polls in South Africa, but actually across the globe, is not accurate before an election. And you can see that in history. Go and look at the polls before the 2019 election. They overestimated, especially the official opposition, and then underestimated a lot of other parties. But I would say Ipsos, that was published in November, is the most accurate, because the problem in South Africa with polling is that you firstly need a big enough sample size, but then you also need to take account of the diversity of South Africa with regards to everything: economic circumstances, cultural diversity, language diversity, everything that plays a role, geographics that plays a role, and urban and other areas. And that all of that must be contained in your sample, and we don't have any polling done in South Africa that takes all of that into account. So it's a too small sample. And then the other problem is that a lot of the participants in the sample is not registered voters. So that creates a false result completely. So I agree with Lerato, but I think Ipsos was quite accurate.
Ipsos, thank you.
Ipsos Markinor, but I think the only poll that counts is election day.
Thank you. All right, we're going, yes. If you have a name of a poll, you can. Yes, what's the question? Did anyone from here ever participate, let's say in the last year, in a poll about who you're going to vote for? Not my poll, just no, a real poll. Have you been phoned or polled? Oh, there's 2, 3. Thank you. Do you live in the township or no? Thank you. All right, thank you. I wanted to ask questions, but I want to push us along. One of my questions was, why did 40% of the eligible people roughly not vote, register to vote? Am I right in more or less in saying that?
Sorry, registered to vote or not?
Registered to vote. 40 did not. 40% of those that could are not yet registered to vote. So we already lost 40% of the country that's either angry or hopeless or don't care or whatever. Is that more or less right?
Well, yeah, 27 million registered.
Yeah.
Out of 42 who can.
Yeah. So almost half our country ain't bothered. And that's why I think from our side, the church must chat about these things, especially with our children. Who are we going to leave this country for? We have to be active. They can't change that 40%. You can change the 40% that didn't even bother to register. So the biggest party in the country is the one that's not registered and that won't turn out to vote. Roughly half, and that's just a reflection back to us as citizens. So I'm just mentioning that, and I'm moving along.
Could I give 2 quick facts?
10 seconds.
10 seconds. The current government of Gauteng governs currently with 50.16%. That's all they have, the majority of 0.16%. Nationally, the governing party governs with 57% of people that voted. But if you take it of a percentage of eligible voters, only 27% of eligible voters voted for the current governing party. Are they a legitimate government? Yeah. No, but it's because people don't go and vote.
So the strongest thing that you can do politically is to get new people to vote. And that's exciting because we're not telling you where to put your cross. Just, yeah. Something technical. with a raise of hands, who knows what's the MPC? MPC. Okay, donkey. And who knows what is moonshot? Not moonshine, moonshot. Okay, more or less the same group. So I want to give two people, thank you. You can put down your hands. I'm not going to call you forward, although it's a church. You can spot the charismats, ne? I just want one person here. No, wait. You're not allowed to answer. I'd like you to answer. And you're part of MPC, am I right? So I want to push the time a little bit, so I'm going to get more rude. I want one person just to tell us in 10 seconds, what is MPC? Just what is MPC, and the other one can add a little bit of spice so that we know what we're talking about. So what is MPC?
MPC is the multi-party charter for South Africa, and it's a pre-election agreement, because after an election, if there is a situation where a multi-party government has to be formed, you only have 14 days to form such government. And with the municipal elections in 2021, where we are involved in governing a lot of municipalities around the country in coalition governments, we saw how difficult it is to then negotiate from scratch. So now there is major role players already in this agreement, but other parties are more than welcome to come aboard.
Thank you. Multi-party, what's a good charter? Yes. Would you like to add something to what Wouter said?
So there's a sense in which others would say, well, why form a multi-party charter? Why be in this agreement before elections when you don't know what your voter base is going to be? South Africans have demonstrated to us that they were just dismayed with the bickering of opposition parties. The sense was, why don't all opposition parties just come together if you really want to fight the ANC? And so the multi-party charter is not a comfortable place to be. You're not in a space to be comfortable. If, in fact, the people who ushered us into a democracy could sit with our oppressors and negotiate a government of national unity, the time for us to do that was now. And so the multi-party charter represents that, to say, if in fact you were to look at the opposition and you were to ask, what is the difference between all of you guys? You all believe that South Africa should be prosperous. You all believe that we want the rule of law to be restored in our country. You all believe that we must have smaller government. We must have the rule of law back in the country. Why can't you all work together? Like, what is different? Besides the fact that what we've realized is that in our country, people don't want to be led. They want to lead. So everyone believes that they are the solution to the problem, whereas coming together and fighting a beast called the ANC has been the rallying call for the multi-party charter. Now, the multi-party charter is also about, you know, who's the beast, who's the least of the devil. The reality is, if you are in politics to give your votes and your voters back to the ANC, then I don't know why you're in politics, because we are in politics to unseat a government that has been non-caring for our people and give our people an alternative. If you're going to give your vote back to the ANC, then your entire formation is redundant.
I'm stopping
and that's
you
the reason
because
for the
I don't have
multi-party
another
charter.
trophy.
Thank you.
I'm stopping her because I don't have another trophy. Is the multi-party charter...
I can keep it. I can keep it.
Is it the same as what was previously called the moonshot? What? More or less.
Well,
No, it's not the same.
It's not the same.
No,
thing,
it's
no.
not the same.
No, it's not
Okay.
the
The
same.
Moonshot Pact died a natural death, was buried in an unmarked grave. Nobody has seen and nobody knows where it is. This was an agreement
Okay.
between parties that are like-minded, values-wise, to make an alternative and give an alternative to South Africans.
Thank you. So multi-party charter, if you're a voter, it's something to consider. Wherever you put your cross, do you want to be in it or out of it, and what's the reasons and so on. I don't want us to get stuck, but one of the questions would be, I presume, if you vote for someone in the multi-party charter, are you 100% sure that afterwards they won't join with the ANC should they be down? Is that the assumption of that thing?
That is not the assumption. It's
the
actually
thing.
in the agreement.
Okay.
All of the multi-party charter members agreed.
Okay.
There's a clause that says you will not give your voters to the ANC, because otherwise, why are your people voting for you as an alternative?
Thank you. I see other two were sitting patiently listening, I'm going to reward you with airtime, don't worry. This year, when we go and vote, I believe there's going to be 3 papers or ballots that we fill in. Am I right?
Yes.
Yes, yeah.
Okay. My question to you, that's from Gauteng, us who live here, must we just vote the same thing on all 3, like your party? Would you like us just to put all 3? Or why would these good people vote different things on, especially the second and the third one? What advice do you have for us in less than a minute? What advice do you have for us with these 3 ballots? Just the same thing, or should we actually, why would any of them put 2 different crosses?
Look, I mean, to keep it simple,
Wacht, man.
to keep it simple, obviously, I'd say put Rise Mzansi on all 3. But theoretically, what having 3 ballots does is it actually gives you an opportunity to influence at different levels, right? So at a national level, we have a different, let me say, forecast than what we may have at a provincial level. And the same goes for the other provinces, by the way. So as Voter pointed out, in Gauteng, we know for a fact that we will likely have a coalition government because the ANC was governing by a very thin majority. So it is definitely in our best interests to vote with that in mind and think about who do we want to govern Gauteng, because somebody who is not governing Gauteng is going to govern Gauteng, and that's something we need to reflect on. At a national level, I think the chips may stack differently. So you may want to make a different, let me say, statistical decision based on national. But the other thing that I know a lot of people do is they really think about what those different tiers of government are for. So at a national level, you are voting more for a policy kind of direction. And you are saying, it's because national government is more involved in national sort of policy making. But provincial government is where, you know, a lot of the actual budgets get dispersed, where education sits. If you want to really influence your children's education, it happens at a provincial level. If you want to influence housing and spatial planning, if you want to influence health, like you were pointing out, the state of health and the health sector and the public sector, that is a provincial competence. And so that is what certainly I would be thinking about as a voter and saying, at a national level, I may be voting more on, let me say, high-level policy ideas, but certainly at a provincial level, I need to be looking at who's going to be governing and what is the mix of parties that I want in government that are going to be affecting my real lived experiences.
Thank you. I just looked also to get some of these Woolies water because I'm struggling to keep up.
And
Thank you.
Sorry, there's one more. There's a third ballot, by the way.
Yes.
I think just for everybody's
What
reference.
is the new one?
Previously, there were only 2 ballots, right? There was national and there was provincial. Now you've got a third ballot, which is your regional ballot. It's still the national ballot, but it is votes that are counted only from this province that contribute to the national count. And what you would know, obviously, is that we've got now independent candidates that are included in that third ballot. But still, you will have one ballot that has only parties, another ballot that will have parties and independents. All of those make up the 400 seats at national government. So again, it gives you an opportunity to use your vote differently. You may think, oh, there's an independent candidate that I like. I would like to see them in parliament. But at the same time, there's a political party that I support, and I want them in parliament too. And so you're able to use your vote in that way.
Thank you. It's very complicated and sophisticated. Just to make it real, if you really don't like, for example, Steenhuisen, you could vote for Musi here and for Groenewald there and for your local DA here because you like what they're doing. Why not?
The rules apply to all.
Bowenasi. So I think it's something important for you and your family and your kids to chat about. It's not just going to vote, because that's how I hear it around the braai. Who are you going to vote for? One cross. I don't hear many conversations about the smart thing to do is the list of this devil here, that one devil there, in the church. But yeah, so I think just to talk about that and to think about that and to educate yourself on that will make us smarter voters. So thanks for just touching on it. I think we all have homework to do on that point. I just want us to chill a bit. 1 second answers. Will the ANC drop below 50%? You're guessing, you're not saying, just a yes or no. Or I don't know.
Nationally,
Nationally.
yes.
Nationally, will the ANC drop below 50? Yeah, yes or no? Or I don't know.
Yes, I think they will.
Thank you.
They must. We're all sitting here. They must.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. We said we want to give hope, and there's your hope. We're making a lot of joke. If there's an ANC supporter here, I apologize. There are ANC supporters here. Why I know that is the questions I received. I had one spectacular question I received. This poor person in Afrikaans writes the question. He says, I voted Cope, I was so excited and they died. And then I voted for Agang and I was so excited and I died. Now I like Zibi, but won't they also die? I've been hurt so much because everyone I vote for die. And then in the last election, I tried the strategy and I voted for ANC to see if they'll also die, but they didn't die. So the sequence was messed up. So this poor guy, he just doesn't know who to vote for anymore. But he's voted ANC.
We don't want that vote.
So there are voters here, so you're welcome and respected. Is there one political party? Is the story true that there's one party, I won't mention names since I only have one trophy, who rents out all the taxis in the country? And I don't know if it's linked to T-shirts and Chicken Licken or KFC, but we hear rumors that there's a party which basically rents out the whole taxi industry and takes people to vote for them and back, and that there's a logistical challenge that if the other parties can't match them in the taxi rental industry that moves the 10 millions, that we won't make the inroads that we want to make. That's stories I hear. So I want to ask just one person in this group, if you think that's nonsense, you can say it's gossip, or if you think there's something behind that, because the fewer people in here tonight came here with a taxi. So it's something we don't think about. Who to vote for is just who's taking me there.
Does it include Uber?
No, Uber is for cheese boys. It's like a whole different... So does anyone know something about this story and that you can confirm or deny?
Well, I do, seeing that we were in the elections and several by-elections as well as in the elections in 2021. Definitely political parties, the established ones for sure, that is what they do. But our message is have no fear. The beautiful thing about the four of us sitting here is we're not competition to each other. We actually are the ones who want to move South Africa forward. The reality is this. South Africans are hamstrung. We don't have money. If people offer you a taxi, take the ride. Absolutely, it is your tax money. You must take the ride. When you get there, nobody's with you at the ballot. You just put your X where you need to put your X. In the same way that they give you a food parcel, that food parcel is your money, it's our taxpayers' money. They must give you the food parcel, accept the food parcel, keep it moving. When you get to the ballot, you are on your own voting. And so we know that for sure that is what they do. And our people aren't as dumb as people think they are. If they were, we would have vastly different outcomes than what we've seen so far.
Thank you. I want us to go a little bit deeper, and now it gets very deep, and it's going to be challenging to be brief on a deep topic. And you've been very quiet now, Songezo, so I want you to start. Reflect on politics and the role that freedom plays. So if I talk about not just Mandela is out of jail, and freedom, you can get in whoever's taxi and vote, but the deeper understanding, when we think about the health of our country, those not voting, those stuck in a voting cycle, freedom might look different depending on in which room you sit. How free are we? What role does the concept of freedom play in your thinking, even your desire to be in politics? And what can you teach us about the link between voting and freedom and what we need to do?
Thanks. So we think a lot, and I've thought a lot about the meaning of freedom. And the question is, freedom from what? And there are many things that people are oppressed by, or many types of oppressions and difficulties that people experience. And if you use the concept of human dignity, you can identify a lot of things from which people continue to suffer. You cannot say you are free when you are afraid to walk on the street in your community. You cannot say you are free when you are not able to see your children every day because of whatever circumstances. And I can make many, many examples. There are all of these things from which people remain unfree. And what we need to do as the purpose of politics is to deliver real and complete freedom so that people are safe, people have a sense of security, and also security in the spiritual sense. Because that's what fear does to you. It locks you in an invisible prison from which you cannot get out of. And I think if we look at freedom that way, there is more possibility that we will get closer together on the basis of our humanity, rather than on the basis of the reasons for which we think we do not like one another. Because there is nobody on God's earth that you like everything about, including your spouse. And I see Skulk, freedom, the state of freedom, as when everyone feels they have the possibility to be themselves in a community that nurtures and values them, and they can build a family and a life that they feel is fulfilling. Then all of us will be free. It might sound abstract, but we really have to make it the purpose of freedom for everyone to feel free, because I think that's a happy place.
One of the questions I won't ask is, does the church have a place in politics? But if we say politics is about helping people to be free, to be valued and to pursue their lives and their families, then the church with the mandate of love has an obvious place in politics. Not funny politics, but in creating freedoms for all our brothers and sisters. So I want to just latch on to that. I'm keeping an eye on the clock, and I'm so tempted to go deeper. I know Lerato when she lifts up her mic.
Oh, no, I'm looking for the clock. Okay.
I'm going to get to you. I want to just harvest some specifics. In our allotted time, we started 10 minutes late, so I'm sure you're going to forgive me. I want to get more specific and not just the same thing. A question I'm wondering about, Wouter, you from the Freedom Front Plus. And we've been talking about the different ballots and so on. I know that you look a certain way, but then in actual participation, you're more diverse than you look. If many people think, maybe we'll vote for you, but locally to make a difference and fix the roads or whatever, but is it not a waste of time voting for Groenewald because the majority in our country won't vote for Groenewald? So my question to you specifically is, should we consider your party nationally, and will that not just be wasting our votes, just specifically nationally with the profile and the stereotype around Freedom Front? How can you help us? Why would we consider voting in that direction or supporting in that direction?
I think politics, at the end of the day, is about making a choice in how you are going to participate politically. And if you go and vote, you then choose a party that you agree with the most. It's a complete fallacy to think that if you're in a political party or if you vote for a political party, it should be a party that you agree with everything. I don't agree with everything from Freedom Plus, but it's the party that I most agree with. And then you choose that party and you look at its manifesto and you say, this manifesto can let what I see as freedom or what I see as the dream that can realize it. You know, what we need in South Africa is not a better or a new government. We need a better dispensation to reach that freedom. Because currently, decision-making is centralized. And we need a dispensation where there's decentralization of decision-making so that communities can be nearer to the decisions that's taken about them. Currently, it's far away, and that's where corruption comes in. That's where the abuse of power comes in. That's where the lack of service delivery comes in. And if you agree with that, if you agree with the building plan that the Freedom Front Plus has, that the manifesto of the Freedom Front Plus has, then you vote for us. If you agree with Rise Mzansi, then you vote for them. If you agree with Action SA, you vote for them. But go and vote, and then there will definitely be coalition governments. And if you vote for the party of your choice, you make that party stronger so that it can have a bigger voice in that coalition government and get those policies that you do agree with, the manifesto parts that you do agree with, into that coalition government. And that is the future of South Africa's democracy.
Thank you. There's a lot there, but I think we get the gist. What I appreciate is one of the questions I got was, how do we complicate the narrative so that everything is not just a simple this one or that one, good, bad. And you've started to open that up, saying everything in one party is not perfect, and we have going for common goals with the freedom. So I just want to mirror, and I like that. Viso, I want to ask you, I'm looking at the audience, and I look at the car that you arrived with. Is reconciliation and black-white reconciliation and racism, is that still an issue? One of the things, if we think what role can the church play, is that still something that should be on the agenda?
Yeah, so it's a good question. And in fact, I think my personal story allows me to reflect on this in a very unique way, because I was born in Hillbrow in the 80s, at a time when the country was going through quite a lot of shift, and Hillbrow was a mixed, area, and it was very cosmopolitan. In fact, it was an area that had been all white, and my parents were at the time, probably some of the first African people to move in there. And I've grown up in diverse settings. When I lived in Cape Town, we lived in a primarily colored suburb. When I was in Joburg, we had friends who were from different races, family friends. So I've always grown up in a very diverse setting. And my experience personally has been that South Africans broadly, and the South Africans that certainly I've come into contact with, are not as attached to their identity domains as we'd like to make them out to be. I think the reality is that we don't have enough opportunity often to engage with each other and have these types of constructive engagements across culture and age and ethnic and racial lines. But when we are at our best, and I'm not gonna kind of use the rugby metaphor, but I mean, it's a pretty good one. When we are at our best is actually when we are all united around a common mission. And I think that somewhere inside, we all know that. So I do think that South Africans are still very much committed to the project of non-racialism and to the ideals of non-racialism. But things are so uncertain right now, and when things are uncertain and people go back to, or they're feeling fearful, they tend to retreat. into their identity, bastions, and everybody goes, like I said earlier, to their lowest selves. But I really do believe, and this is why Rise Mzansi really exists, because part of our mission is to bring non-racialism back to the table and back to the conversation. We don't need a party for every ethnic group. We don't need a party for colored people, party for Afrikaans people, we need to come back to the table, all of us, and negotiate what a future for South Africans can and should look like. And that needs to be a conversation politically that is stewarded by people who have the legitimacy to do so. And it's our view that the current political leadership has abandoned that whole mission. And so I am excited to sit with people like this who I believe are committed to that project. And there needs to be more of us. And I want to just say that, about what Vota's saying is that people, yes, they look at manifestos and stuff, but we also know the truth, is that 9 times out of 10, people look at someone who looks and sounds like them or says the things they kind of like, and that's who they vote for. Very few people actually sit and study manifestos deeply and then say, okay, I score you 7.5 out of 10, therefore I'm going with you. You decide I don't like this one, or you decide you like this one. But I'm saying I am very certain that South Africans are able to transcend, just that base racial thing. I know many South Africans who've said, we know what kind of leadership we want, and we know it when we see it. And even if it doesn't look like me exactly, I know it when I see it. And that cuts across class lines, it cuts across race lines, age lines, etc.
Thank you very much. Lerato and I became very good friends in one day because we had to start reconciling from the first moment. I irritated her, so we're into forgiveness, repentance.
Did you steal her parking space?
But we're getting there. We're a case study. I want to irritate you more and play a game. Let's say you were this old, wise woman, and a young Songezo comes to you for advice. And he asks you, in all your wisdom, Lerato, to make a difference in this country and to increase hope, is it not smarter to stay out of politics and make like OTA, not die OTA, OTA, you know OTA, for toll gates? OTA. Is it not better to do something like that? Because so many people are making a great difference in the country, in civil society. So now Songezo is asking you to make the best impact. Must I get in this dirty game of politics? I've done other things. Is it worth it coming to fight for hope in politics? Or should I rather be efficient outside of politics? He's got one life, one talent. What should be your advice to him and why?
My child. If you don't get politics, politics will get you. It is advice that I got as a student from a professor of mine who said, if you do not get politics, politics will get you. All of us are political. It is a fallacy to believe that you can stay out of politics. Now, there is a distinct difference between party politics and politics. So you don't have to be in a political party, but everything you do, the day you pay for your petrol, the day you walk and you drive down the street, the fact that you can't walk down the street and feel safe as a woman or as a white person in this country, the fact that you can't wag your dog, you can't open the tap and find water, you can't switch on the power and find electricity and it's load shedding. All of those things are political choices. And so I would say to my young lad here, get politics so that when the time comes for you to do something as important as voting, we shed blood for voting. And so it is important for us to understand what the real power of that vote is. The real power of that vote is the fact that society must realize that it is them who must write the job description for politicians and not the other way around. What has happened in our country now is that it is politicians who are telling us what kind of society we need to be. It needs to be the other way around. If in fact we know the South Africa we want to obtain in the future, then we must also be able to characterize the type of leader who's going to get us there. So if somebody has stolen 2 rand, then that is the potential for them to steal 200 million rand. And so I want to end it by saying this. People always wonder why in America, if you are found to be cheating on your wife, that is the end of your political campaign. It is not because they are so ultra conservative that they want people to only have one wife. What that demonstrates is that American society has decided that if you can lie to the person you sleep with every single day, right next to you, you eat with them, you wash with them, they have seen the wart on your butt cheeks. And you can lie to that person. Oh, okay. It is a scientific term, the bug cheeks. It's scientific. If you can lie to that person, then you can deceive an entire nation. And so we have not made that decision as a nation. It is important for us to decide what type of leader is going to get us there. Oftentimes we think as South Africans that people stealing and Zondo Commission is theater. It's a joke. It's entertainment. I hope for one day that I want to see white South Africans, when we talk justice, I would like to see a huge number of white South Africans toying for 30% for black children to come out of school with 30%. If I saw that, then I would be knowing that absolutely we are on the path of nation building, because our collective anger is going to breed what Vuyiso was talking about, that all of us want the same nation and the same kind of nation. And so if all of us, what we're saying here and the work that we're doing equals that, then we should equally be outraged when each other is not receiving the same level of justice that we deserve as South Africans.
Thank you. If your ears are still awake, there was a lot there. Songezo, don't hate me. We see this crowd, and we listen to you, many of us listen to what you say. I want to end kind of this section with a difficult question for you because of where we are. If you have this conversation in Mamelodi or wherever, it's the best question I can give you, because it's like throwing the ball softly and you hit it for a 6. Now I'm throwing the curveball in because of the space we're in, the Dutch Reformed Church, white Christians, blah, blah, blah. If you take her advice and you realize that we can't escape politics, it affects us. Now you're there, now you're the success, you're from Eastern Cape, I won't comment on looks, but maybe you're the next Mandela. You're there now. I'm not lying to your wife, etc. You're there, and now we've got all this noise about land this, land that, land thieves. We hate being called land thieves, especially if we don't have land, but we've got the pen. We understand the whole thing, but it's a hot one for us. But it's also a hot one for other people. So I want to just tap in for this idea of not polarizing and coming with cheap answers and listening to each other and finding each other. How would you speak about the realities of land for the total country in the long term, making our country a healthy, prosperous country? What needs to be done about land?
So, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to deal with this, because it is just like immigration. In that, if you don't use certain language about immigrants, then you're not doing it right to some people. There's a lobby on Twitter that feels very strongly about it. But let me say 3 things. The first is that there is a historical land injustice that we all know about. There is a growing population that is far bigger than it was in 1913, and we have an urbanizing country that is urbanizing much faster than government has responded. All of the governments have responded to it. And that has reduced a lot of people to illegal land occupants in their own country. Because it appears that from a policy perspective, we've pretended that we do not have any of these realities. The number of people, in terms of the total population in South Africa, who need to land restitution is tiny. It's a small number relative to the population. Because most of us were born after, so we've since multiplied and so on. And we need to provide space to live and to do business for millions more people than were dispossessed before. That's a reality. And so we have linked spatial planning to the land question. The two must go together. What is spatial planning? It says, how many people do I have? What are the patterns that we're getting in this population? And where are they going to live? How are they going to get food to eat? Where do we produce food? And so on. It's a very simple question. And it is clear that if all of us held on to the amount of land that we own, in the next 50 years, the 40, 50 million who are born thereafter would hate us because they don't have anywhere to live. And so part of nationhood and nation building, and I'd like to talk about moving on from reconciliation to nation building actually, is asking a different question. What decisions must we make so that all of us, not just now, but in the next 30, 40, 50 years, feel that we have a country that wants to provide a place for us to live and to have a dignified life? If we ask the questions that way, and not in the manner in which those fellows there with a red beret ask, we free ourselves of the imprisonment of fear. That by trying to solve this problem, you are taking something away from me. In home visits, we encounter people who live in back dwellings, and I'm going to shut up now, who live in back dwellings. And when they want to use the toilet at 2 a.m., because they have a stomach bug, they have to go and knock in the main house and ask to use the toilet. Depending on whether that person wakes up or not, or if they are home at all, they might not have a place where they can use a toilet, and they have to make a plan. The human being in me, who has compassion and empathy, says, those people cannot live, it cannot be their reality to have to knock on somebody's door at 1 a.m. and ask to go to the loo. I want them to have a place they can call home. The question is, if we ask this land question in that way, wouldn't we all much easier find a solution? Or do we want to be prisoners of a belief that if you help that person, you are taking away from me? I think we are bigger than that as South Africans. I think we are moral beings. And what these slogans and these SMSs and things that go around do is they separate us from our moral selves into a place of fear, which is where you get inhumanity. Thank you.
Can I add to what Songezo has said? Because I think the land question is an important question. I want to add to what he has said. We meet a lot of landowners in South Africa who are primarily those who want to have that conversation, who are white Afrikaners in this country, who are willing, able, and prepared to relinquish some of what they own. They are there. It's a lie to believe that that is not actually the case. And so what they are afraid of, which is the swart gevaar and the wit gevaar, because we have both in this country, they do not trust the political establishment we currently have. 14% of land is owned by the state in this country. If the state can demonstrate what it is doing with the land they currently own, then we should have a conversation that is real talk among South Africans. The last part is this. South Africans must wake up to the fact that the day that they say our land and jobs now, and I'm not speaking ill of anyone, is the fact that that land is not going to be owned by you and I. It is going to be owned by the state. And who will be the state in that moment? The state will be the person who says, I am the state. And that is the missing conversation among South Africans. And so we do have land, and there are people who want to relinquish because they know that it is what is justice, what is just in how Songezo has just described it, is that South Africans actually want this country to move forward, and we want to move forward together. But we can't also be afraid of having the deep and troublesome and traumatic conversations that we need to have. And so it is important for all of us to be in that conversation and not be afraid to be in the conversation for fear of being labeled as one thing or another.
Thank you. Some of these things they're saying, we're recording tonight and we will make the whole conversation available, but there's snippets here that is so on point and prophetic even, that we will have to revisit and listen calmly to what you're all saying. I want to shift us and do something. At the end of the day, we forget all the words and we'll remember pictures and stories. So I want to force now the politicians to bless each other. So we have thank you packs. And when you look next to your chair, you'll see a thank you pack. And you're going to pack a gift for your political opponent. So Songezo is going to prepare a gift for Lerato. Lerato is going to prepare a gift for Songezo, and Wouter is going to prepare a gift, and Voyizwa is going to prepare a gift for Wouter. You can take your bag, and then we can show people. There's a mug. They didn't notice I put alles verloren on the wine. There's mugs that's about reconciliation. There's a Markplek for taxis sticker. There's a cap. Songezo, how much do we need to pay you to put the Skoko cap on and look into the camera? It just means Skoko, and all four of you are Skokos. They know, we teach each other. There's a Tswana playing cards. There's a mug about playing, dis hoe dit is met Steve, but then there's a picture of Steve Biko, not Steve Hofmeyer. Sorry, can we exchange? You're going to give to Wouter, ne? Yes. Sorry, I just want to make sure and change. You can give him the white chocolate. Because he's so sweet. If there's hope for the politicians in our country, and imagine one day we could have honest politicians that care deeply about normal people and that sees the bigger picture and that they even learn to love one another, then we'll all be happy citizens. And we can model that and maybe check how we participate. So once you've put everything in your bag, let's do it slowly. I wanted to say, as you give the bag, you must say one thing you appreciate about that person after listening to them tonight. Must I force them to do that?
Yes.
Okay, democracy, ne? So you're going to exchange like this and that. So I'm just giving you 10 seconds to say one thing you appreciate about the person. Say not a speech, just a sentence, and then give them the bag slowly. And then the other person will reciprocate and say one thing you appreciate about this human being sitting next to you. then give them their gift, and then we'll move this side.
Giving to Lerato, right? What I appreciate about Lerato is her bravery to step into this kind of work that we are doing before me and Vuiso, to show that it is possible for many more of us to do the same for the sake of our country and future generations. That's inspirational, and I appreciate that about her.
Thank you. Let's clap for Lerato. You can give the bag now. Aww.
Oh. So, you know what they say, I love you enough to give you my last Rolo. And
Wow.
I don't want to give him this mug, but I'm going to give it to him because for the same reasons that he has said about me, I think this space is so tough and so brutal. And for Songeza to come through, by the way, if you don't know, he wrote a book called The Manifesto. And I saw him as one individual who, you know, makes me want to wake up in the morning and do what we've got to do. The reality is that in order for the new to rise, check the
That's gracious.
for the new to rise, the old must die, and I don't mean old people. I just mean old ideas. I just mean old misconceptions about each other and ourselves. And so I think for me, Rise Mzansi as an organization and Songezo in particular as its leader represents that for me. If I wasn't so avid a voter and a activist in my own party, there is nothing that would preclude me from voting for Rise Mzansi. I think that they are a jazzy organization. I think that I love the slogan that we need new leaders, because I think that cuts across everyone. We definitely need new leaders, and he's leading that movement, and I definitely, absolutely am a supporter of every single thing that they do, because I think that in terms of being like-minded and wanting for our country to move forward, Rise Mzansi represents an organization that I can definitely myself get behind. And so he's the leader of that organization, and I know that they are doing a lot of work. And that they are shaking up the establishment, and he's leading that charge. And so that is what I appreciate about him, and he's having my last Steve Biko.
I just want to say we can now die, because to listen to politics like this, when was the last time? No, I'm serious. When was the last time you heard a politician speak like that about the opposition? Never.
Okay, besides the fact that your name rhymes with voter, which is my favorite thing right now, I do appreciate the fact that you have been serving as a member of parliament for the last 10 years, which is right about the time parliament got really crazy, about 10 years ago. And I can imagine how challenging and how grueling that, I didn't say anything about anyone. I know my rights. So I think that to be in a party like yours, you know, in a country as politically polarized and volatile, and still manage to keep your head above water and your dignity, you know, for lack of a better word. I think that you guys have done a great job, and particularly to yourself for still standing 10 years later, and for the hard work that you've been doing representing
well, your constituency, but also representing the people of this country. So, yeah, that is my appreciation for you. Bring it in.
No, thank you so much. And let me say what I appreciate, and what I appreciated tonight was the way that you conducted a very articulated, frank, and intelligent conversation and contribution to this dialogue. And Skalk, I really do think that we need more of these opportunities. We need think tanks where we talk, where we exchange ideas, where we have more time to engage on the land issue, for instance, and so forth. But let me tell one story, though, and that is about Parliament, what you reflected now on as well. What you see there on television is theatre. You said you're surprised that you hear politicians complimenting each other and so forth. Get that every day. In committees, we work together across political boundaries and borders, and most of the time, actually in the interest of South Africans. It's a very few people that use a platform to create a theatre and that destroys the decorum of Parliament. But actually, as people and as South Africans, we should work together across political alignments and work for what we stand for. And I appreciate Rise Mzansi. And one word of advice, what is very important is to always remember that politics chooses you, you don't choose politics. That is, and if you ever go and think that you are bigger than what the actual cause is, then you fail. And you mentioned a lot of parties that failed. You made the joke. And go and see it, go and look. When they became, and leaders became bigger than the cause that they were serving, then they failed. And if we can continue on this way, that we work for our constituents, for what we believe in, but work together to build a better dispensation and build a better South Africa, then we are on the right track. But thank you so much.
Buizwa. Has the camera person been behind me? Ah, okay. I'm a pastor, and all this makes me want to pray. But I know some of you want to pray, especially Thomas. He'll always praise. Some of you don't want to pray. Thank you. I want to pray desperately, but I've raised an expectation also among my constituents that there was just one or two roasty things to say. So before I pray, I just want to keep it real so that you don't accuse me of being a dominee. Such fantastic things here. You get advice saying, please don't say Songezo Zibi. What you should have learned from Zuma is it's easy, Zuma. So we can learn Zibi. They'll forget Songezo by tomorrow. So Afrikaners in the 80s, we had the Zibi bin, where you throw your rubbish. And maybe you can deal with the rubbish in this country. But we can remember Zibi. So if you need to catch white people, just say Zibi. We will take time to learn Songezo. Wouter, I had a question here, which was your joke. Do you get anxiety when people talk about voter registration? And someone said, I wonder if you struggle more with the English or the black people pronouncing your name, Wouter or Voter. So you don't have to answer. Also, congrats for getting high up in your party without having a surname of Groenewald and Mulder. Lerato, whose vernek is better, Trollop or Mashaba? And does Trollop write Mashaba's speeches? In geval.
Below the belt, that person needs the pin.
Vuyizwa, to get as famous as Julius, you're going to have to give us a scandal. I don't know what
working on it.
What scandal? Do you know who's Pieter Marais? Is it Marais, ne? The one question is, does Pieter Marais feel like Chester Williams in 1995? Vuyizwa, is the Oppenheimer cash finished yet? And let us know when we must start contributing.
Now!
Well, you saw my car.
Can
eh?
no, it's there.
It's finished.
I didn't know about the car. Can Herman pay for my biography too?
Absolutely.
And then my favorite question I received: why two from Rise Mzansi? I'm going to leave it there. And I'm actually going to light in our church services. We light a candle every service, not to be funny or Catholic or whatever. Oh, Rachadi is here. Anglican. We call it the Christuskers, where we focus on Christ, who's the center of our morality, our ethics, whatever we do. So I'm going to light. Normally we blow it out at the end, but we have to go out now and do our thing. So I'm going to light the candle as we walk out. And in ons kerk is dit die Christuskers. And there's an exhibition on this small table which have got a lot of newspapers, and you know what's in there? And there's a lot of Bibles, and you know what's in there. And as a church, I think Karl Barth said, a good theologian reads them together, the newspaper and the Bible. So I'm going to put our Christuskers here, and I'm going to light it, and I'm going to give a minute of silence for us to end the evening. To me, it feels like I can speak for one more hour. The faces, I've never preached with them so awake, ever. I'm going to give silence, and then I'm going to close for us with prayer. Here, ons is nie net jammer oor al die slegte goed wat ons aanvang heeltyd nie. Ons is ook jammer vir die duisende goeie goed wat ons nog nie doen nie. Help ons om u liefde nie in die kerk te hou nie. Help ons om nie net om te gee vir naastes nie, maar vir verstes. We want to thank you, Lord Jesus, for unbelievable people, your creations, the human beings that's gathered in this space tonight. We are humbled just by the faces we see around us. Not just yet, these 4 brave warriors, but also the brave warrior sitting in front of me. Give us the courage not to give up. Give us the courage not just to be leaders, but to be followers. We pray for our country. We pray for peaceful elections. We pray for smart elections. And help us not to make a divide between our faith and the reality we encounter out there. Please bind us together in your love. In the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.